Welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. The show where each week a panel of respected marketing strategists, all trained and certified by the legendary Dan Kennedy, share their wisdom, experience, strategies, and insights on how to use Dan Kennedy's philosophy on business and marketing in any type of business, and that you can apply to your business immediately. Here's your host, Craig Valine.
Hello, I'm Craig Valine. Welcome to the most incredible marketing show ever. Today I have my guest panel of independent business advisors from Dan Kennedy Certified Program. Welcome, guys. Today we're going to talk about we got some questions that we get from listeners that I've heard from over the years. But today, this particular question is, how important is it to inject personality into marketing efforts, and what are some effective ways to do this? Steve, you're a personality, and I think you're pretty effective at it in your marketing. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I appreciate that. Although having a strong personality might be antithetical, might hurt the viewers, thinking like, well, then of course he can do it. He's got a big personality. What about me? So I will assure you that I actually in real life am an introvert, and I really the second this recording's over, and the second any of my meetings are over, and the second anything is over, my beautiful wife Michelle can tell you that I just want to be alone and do my own thing and read a book or watch a game or answer emails or something alone. I mean, that's just who I am. But thanks to Dan Kennedy's teaching, I realized I got to bring my personality out. And if you don't have one, you need to develop one and create one. That's the key to using personality. Actually, I love this topic so much that once I was asked by Bill for his series on the gold monthly CDs, that's dating ourselves here, going back 15, 20 years now, the monthly CDs, that I want to have you on there. What's your favorite GKIC product? And I said, well, it's personality and marketing, which was just a talk Dan gave at a bonus day at a super conference, whenever, 20 years ago. And they turned that into 2 CDs and the manuscript, and they sell that for a few $100, and there's personality and copy. But there were so many gems in there. And then Dan had, other courses where he really developed it. But I just really love that. Just simple, basic things. So one thing I will say, to have a personality, I heard Howard Stern once. I'm from New York, so I remember listening to Howard Stern a long time ago before he gave he's on some national radio now or something for years, I know. But back then, I remember him saying he was all upset that he wasted his childhood, because instead of taking guitar lessons and becoming a big shot rock star that he always wanted to be, he would sit alone in his room and read comic books. And what a total waste. And I was like, man, that's exact opposite what Dan Kennedy teaches. One of the ways to develop this personality so that you have an ongoing character that attracts people and keeps them coming back and wanting to know what you're doing next, that you can learn that from comic books, because you see the development of the characters and the fact that they're superheroes. And I was thinking to myself, man, Howard needs someone I should call into the show, or Howard needs someone to tell him this. Like, he has developed his own character that people always want to see. What's he talking about next, and what crazy thing he's going to say next? He talks about his personal life. He talks about his ups, his downs. That's what you do. You just be personal with people. And I'll tell you, if you really are staunchly out there, which I have heard over the years when I've taught this, people saying, yeah, I just can't do it. I just won't do it. I just can't do it. Then don't. Then have somebody else in your business be the personality of the business. Have it be your spouse. Have it be your receptionist. That's an easy one to do. He or she is likely a very outgoing people person. And so you can say, my receptionist this weekend, it's amazing. She went here and she did this and whatever. And, I talked to a few Dan Kennedy marketing superstars back in the day. And I was like, man, your receptionist, he goes, she doesn't even know that I'm writing that stuff. Like, she doesn't do that stuff. She has to read the newsletter because people are walking in going like, wow, Mary, I tripped to wherever. She's like, what the hell? Oh, wait, I got to read the newsletter and find out all the exciting things I'm doing. So, and then if you're really, really, if you're a solopreneur and you don't want to do it, then you can do what J. Conrad Levinson did, and you create a character for yourself. So you create Charlie the Tuna, or Smokey the Bear, or the Jolly Green Giant, or then you create a character that now has personality and draws people. Everyone remembers Morris the Cat had a personality, and Charlie the Tuna personality. Tony the Tiger had a personality. So if you can't bring it out of yourself, bring it out of someone else in your family or your business. And if you absolutely can't do that, create a character and bring it out. But by all means, develop personality and bring that forth in everything you do. Now with social media, it's easier than ever before. We used to just do it once a month in a newsletter. Now you can do it all the time on social media, post fun videos. Again, if it isn't you, it's somebody else, but bring that personality out, because, last week's episode, Joe talked about the two different heating and air guys came in the house, one with a personality, talking to him, asking questions, spending time, complimenting the house, looking around. The other one, in and out, bing, bang, didn't even say hello, bye-bye. Who's he going to do business with? Who's he going to stay with? The one who brought out some personality. So if you don't want to do this yourself or with an employer or a family member or create a character, you really shouldn't be running your own business. Okay, bring some personality into it.
Amen. Joe, what do you have to say? How do you inject personality into business, and why do you think it's important?
Injecting the personality into the business is a way of connecting with those people that are interested in your product and services, and it is just what Steve was saying. I mean, basically, you can probably, you want to foster an emotional connection. If think about, sometimes we've seen products where, yes, I sell this product, but I personally had this problem, and I took, I went working with this product and I changed it, or I bought it and I changed it and made adjustments to it, and it really does solve the problem of, I don't know, stiff leg or something, whatever the case may be, or it solves the problem in a business environment. And I think that's part of it. And then all of a sudden that person is going to look at you and start to trust you more, because you experienced this, or you understand the product. You're not just selling something off of a shelf. And I think that's really what's involved here. You're getting that either potential customer or your existing customers more engaged in what you're doing, and what you're selling. Really, that's part of it. It's storytelling, which if you've got a story to go with this product or service, then that's going to help you with the content and the things that you're going to do. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, is looking at it going, I'm connecting, I'm engaging, I'm giving them a story as to why I experienced this, or why my clients have experienced this, and what we did to solve the problem, to come up with the answer to it. So I think those are some of the things that you're going to look at, and when you're getting involved with, injecting the personality of yourself, or, as Steve said, it could be somebody else inside the business, even the secretary. Doesn't matter. So, I mean, she could have been a person as a customer and then became a secretary because she just loved the product and services so much. So, yeah, I think this is, a really important thing about when you're running a business, and how to attract people and get them involved with you. So.
That's a really important element Joe is bringing up, is the way Dan teaches it. He calls it the origin story, which, when you think about it, all comic book characters have. I mentioned comic book characters. They have an origin story. So Joe mentioned, if you have a story, I'm going to challenge and say everyone does have a story. And I'm an expert at pulling it out of them. So over the years, I'll ask, say, a heating and air guy, and I would ask him, okay, so first thing, as I'm making up your whole marketing and advertising campaign here, why do people choose you over other heating and air guys? And so often the answer is, I don't know, I guess I'm the closest one. Or I guess I'm the cheapest. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not going to do it. So let's get some personality. Let's create an origin story. So I'll ask the question, why did you become a heating and air guy? And that's when the magic starts to happen. Almost everyone in any business has an origin story about why they're doing that story. I had a kitchen remodeler. man, he just told me a whole. I had to pull the teeth like that, but he told me, he said, when I was about an 8 or 10-year-old kid, we needed some work done in the kitchen, and the remodeler came over and he did all the work, and then my dad wrote the check, and then the next day, we noticed that one of the drawers was not pulling out right, and we called him, and but he wouldn't come back and fix it. He was like, "You already paid, you signed off on the job, blah blah blah." And my dad was irate, my mom was upset, and he said, at that moment, I vowed, when I grew up, I was going to become a kitchen remodeler, and I was going to do it right, and I was going to care that the job was done right, and if it wasn't, I was going to come back, and I was going to love them. I'm like, I can't even write fast enough. This is fantastic. What a fantastic origin story. Now you got to tell that over and over and over, just so people know the origin story of Superman. He was born on kryptonite, and his mother sent him in a capsule to the U.S. and whatever. He landed in a field and and they know the origin story of Batman. His parents were killed, and he became a crime fighter. And Spider-Man was bitten by a radioactive spider, got the power. I mean, they all got this origin story. I'm like, there's your origin story. Now tell it over and over, so all your customers, patients, clients, members, students, they all know that story as well. We all know the origin story of Superman. And that's a big part of now starting your character. So origin story, big part of it. And it's not an if, it's you definitely have one. There's definitely a reason you're doing what you're doing. If you can't pull it out of yourself, find someone who's really good at pulling it out of you and then putting that together in a way that it will attract people to you.
This episode of The Most Incredible Marketing Show Ever is sponsored by Steve Sipress. Get a free video on how to solve all of your sales and marketing problems and have fun doing it using the WOW strategy at www.thewowstrategy.com. That's www.thewowstrategy.com. Now, back to our show.
Right.
That's great. There's two. I was going to bring up origin story, and the way whenever I started my meeting, the local chapter meeting, I'd always start with the same story over and over and over and over again. And it was based on a lesson that I was trying to teach them, which is if you learn one thing tonight, it could change your life. And the story started with how I found Dan Kennedy's book in a Buck bookstore in Boston, Massachusetts in Copley Square. And I had only a buck in my pocket. And I sat there reading it for 2 hours until the lady at the counter says, "Hey, mister, you going to buy the book or what?" And I only had $1, and it was $1.05 at that time. It was 5 cents tax. What's the tax in Massachusetts now, Joe?
6.5, something like that.
That's still not bad. It's 10% right here. But the point being was I didn't have the nickel, but they had a little dish on the counter with pennies, so I was able to get the 5 pennies and get the book. And so I talk about how I implemented that, learned one lesson from the book, which is tie your message into what's currently occurring in the prospect's mind. And there was muggings happening on Boston Common, and I taught karate. And I said, how can I tie that message into what I know how to do? And it's like, hey, be safe walking across Boston Common. I'll teach you karate or self-defense. We called it common sense self-defense. We went into businesses during lunch or after work, and we taught them how to defend themselves. And it was tying that into what was going on in the news every day. And that resulted from me going with having $1 in my pocket to having many, 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 many dollars in my pocket. But the point being was I used that origin story over and over and over again, that my members could recite it. The people who had heard it over and over and over again, they could recite it. They knew where it was. They knew there was a Buck bookstore. They knew the lesson. They knew everything. And that's how you know you have a good origin story, is when people remember it.
Yeah, I was going to say, when you said my origin story, I was going to tell it.
Yeah.
That's the example. That's the point you're making. Like, I know your origin, so I was going to go, oh, you mean finding the Dan Kennedy, the Buck bookstore? Here we go.
Yeah.
And you want all your patients, clients, ever to be able to, every time I did the same thing. Maybe Joe did the same thing, and in every single one of my meetings for 6 years, told the same story. I would even say to my members, my longtime members, I'm like, I'm just surprised you guys don't come purposely a half an hour late. I'm doing the same thing every time for the first half hour. And you know what they would say to me all the time? They'd say, but I love the Steve Show. I just want to see it over and over. I know it. I know every word you're going to say. It's like going to a concert and I know all the words of the songs, or it comes on the radio. Go, Steve, that's how your story is, Steve. I just want to hear it over and over and over and over. So you want to bring that story on. Don't be afraid people get bored with it or whatever. That's like saying, well, people get bored hearing their favorite song on the radio. No, they'll turn it up and they'll know all the words, and then they'll pay to go to a concert, more hundreds of dollars to watch someone sing it live, and they'll sing all the words. I'm like, did you come to sing at the concert or listen at the concert? No, they love that story. They want to hear it over and over. So bring it out of yourself and tell it all the time.
Yeah. You know, the one other thing you mentioned was a character. And so I created a character called Mini-Me. And so I used my son as my character. And what I found by, so I would refer to the stories of Mini-Me, how he grew up. And the reason I know that character worked, because even today, even Steve, you still ask me, how is Mini-Me, or what do you call him now?
Now I call him Not So Mini-Me.
Not So Mini-Me, right? I call him College Boy. The name has evolved as he's gotten older. Now he's still in college. He's still taking extra classes. But the point is, people I haven't seen in years will come up and say, how's Mini-Me? Well, he must be in college now. And, they still remember that. And so there's that connection. And I find that the connection that I created with that particular character was they loved that I loved my son so much, and they wish they had the relationship they had they wish they had the relationship with their child that I had. They do have that relationship with the child they have, or they can't wait to have kids and have that relationship with it. So it was on 3 different levels that I connected with people.
Brilliant. And I don't have kids myself, so we did that with our dog.
Yeah.
So our dog wrote a column every month in our monthly newsletter, and people would come, just like you said, they'd come to an event and they'd go, man, how's your dog doing? Did it work out with that dog down the street? Are they still friends? And I'm like, I got to read the newsletter. Like, I didn't write the column. I paid a comic writer to write it. I'm like, oh my goodness, they're not asking about me. They're not asking about how's their marketing or their business, which is ostensibly what they were there for. They're like, they wanted to get that newsletter to read about the doggy next adventure of our doggy. And so even after our doggy passed away, because doggies, live way too short lives, I put right in the newsletter, everyone was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I'm like, the good news is he's really smart. He knew he didn't have much longer to live, and he wrote like 36 columns. So for years, we're still going to be public. I'm like, I'm not giving this up. For years, we continue to publish posthumously the monthly column from the doggy, which is by far the most popular part of our whole thing. And I'm like, look, whatever it takes to keep people coming back. They're coming back for the doggy, not for me. My mom once told me that. She said, your dog has a great personality. You not so much, but your dog is. I'm like, thanks, Mom. That's great. True, great.
Joe, as we wrap up, did you have a character that you used, or what character stands out for you?
I won't say she's a character because she's my wife. So, but what we did was Dolores was big into, she took a course on how to do cakes and, bake them and frost them and all that. So what we would do is in the newsletter, we would put in a picture of a cake that she made, a birthday cake or whatever. I mean, I remember one Thanksgiving, she made a cake that looked like a turkey. And people would come up to me and go, is there any way I can get a recipe from your wife on how you did that? I mean, or can I, what did she do? What did she use or whatever? And it was something that was popular. I mean, because they could see that, and it wasn't just like the women who were part of my, my meetings. It was the men going, my wife saw that newsletter and she wants to know how did your wife do that? So, that again, it was giving that connection, and I think that's what it's about. But no, she's not a character.
I love it. Well, I haven't seen Dolores it got to be like 15 years, right? How's she doing?
Been a number of years. Yep.
She doing all right?
Oh yeah, she's doing fine.
Well, please make sure to give her my best.
I will.
And send an email out about her and say, hey, let me tell you about my wife. Well, listen, this is a shorter episode, but we do have to wrap up, unfortunately. if you got any value from listening to these crazy people here on the show, please reach out to them. We have a free gift pack for fans of the show at mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. You can get a free gift from these two guys and myself, as well as past panelists. If you want to follow us on a regular basis, we have a new episode every Thursday. You can go to youtube.com/@mostincrediblemarketingshow. Gentlemen, I'd like to thank you again for being here and helping me deliver the message of Dan Kennedy and answer the questions for our listeners. And it's pretty awesome. I love having you. Until next time. And thank you for watching and listening. By the way, I forgot to say that most in-person person in the room is our listeners. So thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.
Thank you for joining us this week on the most incredible marketing show ever. New episodes are available every week on Thursdays. To receive a free gift pack from our expert panelists and get access to show notes from previous episodes, be sure to visit our website, www.mostincrediblemarketingshowever.com. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell up in the right-hand corner to be notified of future episodes so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate you clicking the like button and leaving a comment on what big aha you got during the show. That's it for today's episode. See you next week.